Welcome back. You're with Money, Money, Money. And this week we're discussing how to draw up a smart holiday plan. Adil, let's focus on some of the other aspects as well. Travel insurance these days, I think for international trips, it's sort of more and more increasingly becoming the norm to go ahead and do it. But what sort of premiums are we talking about? What should one keep in mind while buying travel insurance?
So three things. One, it's very, very important. You never know when something can go wrong when you're on your holiday. Someone breaks a leg, someone has a minor accident. It's very expensive to get treated in some of these foreign countries. Travel insurance is a must. Don't think twice about it. A lot of visas require it, so you're forced to buy it. Sometimes they don't ask for it, but you have to buy it. Very important. Number two, right, these products are not too expensive. So, for example, if you're getting a 10-day cover for $100,000 US, the premium approximately, right, you need to put in your age, you need to put in, if you have any pre-existing conditions. But I'm just saying, for a 35-year-old like me with, no serious conditions, it's about 1,000 rupees for a 10-day, $100,000 cover, which is not much, right? And the third thing, right?
And what all would a policy like this typically include?
So it would cover any hospitalization expense you have. Okay. In certain cases, it might cover flying someone in an emergency to take care of you while you're recovering over there. It might cover certain of the medication that needs to be purchased abroad. All of this depends on the policy, so you can look at it. Also think of this, right? Your trip flights get cancelled because now you can't take the same flights. Will they pay for the new flights that you rebook? Will they pay for the hotel room? Because see, you're not going to be alone, right? You're going to have maybe your spouse with you. Will they pay for the hotel room of the spouse? So all this comes in the policy terms, and it can be read before you purchase the policy on the net.
Okay. A lot of the websites also, Amit, these days are offering travel insurance right at the time when you do the booking. So what are the pros and cons of going in for a policy like this? Because here there's a pre-tie-up, right, which the website itself is offering.
Especially when you're traveling international, I think the insurance is a must, and I would probably even term it as a cardinal sin to step out of the country without insurance. And a lot of people in India that I've spoken to sometimes confuse their domestic medical cover with that. Okay, I am covered with this, but they don't. So I think that's something which everybody needs to understand, that, and especially the hospitalization overseas can be very, very expensive. So we as a sort of travel player, everybody sort of offers these insurances as a part of the purchase process itself. So essentially it's the same thing. The only thing is it's a similar kind of...
Just for my understanding, which is the company that ClearTrip partners
So we work with Tata AIG to who they power our sort of international insurance, and essentially it's a product which is sort of works on the number of days your trip is, and you sort of you're supposed to sort of put in the details like your age, and then you'll sort of get your the policy cover alongside the ticket that you get in there.
And now, is the cover somewhat on the lines of the premium? What Adil
these are essentially sort of fairly simple, as Adil was saying.
$1,000 for about 100,000.
Yeah, roughly about about 1,000, 150 rupees depending upon your age and the any condition that you got. And these are fairly standard. Whatever is the Tata AIG travel product which has been there.
And there are no pre-medical tests etc. involved in these products.
Not on these. It's only the sort of disclaimers and the information that in case if you have any pre-existing disease that you're liable to sort of provide in that. Otherwise, there are no any medical tests or anything required in there.
And what's the claim settlement ratio you've seen at your end?
We typically, these the claim settlement we've sort of seen on the international one is about less than 2% is sort of, whether people are sort of coming in and claiming in that. And obviously we'd love, this to be as low as possible because we don't want things to go wrong with people. But generally there's been no issues around that. And I think that's where sort of insurance companies are fairly quick and that's what sort of when we choose in terms of the partner that we want to go, we want to sort of look in terms of what's been the feedback, and we continue to sort of monitor the feedback of our customers in terms of if they had any issues and whether the claim settlement process was smooth and was the insurance provider responsible.
Adil, just your thoughts on claim settlement. Is it a fairly seamless experience? Do companies actually pay up when the going gets tough?
Yeah, I've personally been through the expense. I think you need to file a certain number of documents, and that's similar even if you take a Mediclaim policy in India. So you need the hospital admit letter, you need a diagnosis of the treatment being recommended, you need an original invoice being generated by the bank. So I'd say the process is more or less similar to what we follow for Mediclaim in India.
Okay, fair enough. So now let's come down to the last option, or rather the last point, and that's Forex and how you deal with that if you're traveling international. So these days it's become quite the norm because your Indian debit or credit card is universally accepted, whether it's a Master or a Visa card, and there is a propensity to conveniently swipe it every time. But is that the right way to transact when you're overseas?
See, there are two options. One is all of us carry an international debit or a credit card, so you swipe it, it works, right? So no preparation, no extra work. Now, what happens is when you swipe an international debit or a credit card, there is a Forex conversion fee, which is put on top of the transaction. Now, this varies bank by bank. So, you can check online and see how much your particular bank is charging you for your credit or for your debit card.
But a rough range maybe that you have in mind?
So, is between 1.8% to 3.5%.
Of every transaction that you're doing?
Of every transaction. That's called the Forex conversion charge, right? So, that is a charge which happens when you swipe abroad. The other option is to go with a Forex card. And that, today is being sold by multiple banks, wherein you can avoid this Forex conversion fee.
So the Forex card works like a sort of a preloaded card, does it not?
Pretty much.
What are the costs involved? How do you get this card, and sort of how does it make sense?
Yeah. So most of the leading banks, right, offer this Forex card. They brought up some innovation wherein, let's say you're traveling to two countries, you can actually load the card with two different currencies. So there are banks which go as high as 15 currencies on the same card, but it's a prepaid instrument. So you load the instrument before you start traveling. Now, there is a certain joining fee for the card, which is a nominal amount. It could be about 250-300 rupees approximately. And there is a reload fee every time you load up the card. So let's say you're loading $5,000 on the card. There is a 100 rupee approximate fee for reloading it. So these are the costs with getting a Forex card.
So a Forex card vis-a-vis traveler's checks, which is sort of the norm from the olden days. I don't know if that's still a popular instrument at all.
Yeah, I think Forex card definitely, because one, there's no time limit. Like for a traveler's check, you're searching for this shop which will cash your traveler's check within this time. Forex, it's like a debit or credit card. Any restaurant, any store, as long as you see a Visa or a MasterCard, you swipe. And it's taken everywhere, right? So pretty much anyone who supports a Visa or a MasterCard supports your Forex card. So hands down over traveler's checks.
Okay, fair enough. So Amit, coming down to last thoughts, any tips you'd like to leave our viewers with when they have to plan smart for that holiday?
So I think, is plan, as early as you can, and, zero, that's very, very important. A lot of times, what we do is we spend a lot of time in terms of zeroing on destination, and then we leave very, very little time to sort of, do the other sort of the other parts, which is the air and the hotel and the other things that you want to do in there. So as a thumb rule, I think, plan as early as you can. And like everything else in life, the more diligent we are, the better things come our way. Yeah.
Okay, well, those are some interesting tips and thoughts to keep in mind. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining in on the show this week. That's it on this week's episode of Money, Money, Money. Your feedback, comments, queries, welcome as always. We'll see you again next week.